This is the O Review podcast. O Review.
Welcome to another episode of Oakley Reviews. Today we're going to do the Wisdom. I don't have too many goggles. Actually, the majority of my goggles I think are vintage, mostly just for historical pieces in the collection. But the main reason I got the Wisdom is because of the lens. I really like the high blue lens, and the cheapest way to get it was to get it on a goggle because goggles are typically a lot less than sunglasses. This was another gift, just like the pair I reviewed last year, because my brother used to buy me a ton of pairs back when I lived at home. So I requested a Wisdom. He went out and got it for Christmas, and here it is. This is just the black, silver with high blue lens model. The Wisdom was kind of just the latest model at the time, back in 2003 or so. And around the time, they basically just had like the O frame, the L frame, the E frame, A frame. And this is kind of where they started going into more different styles. Started adding a lot of accents, a lot of different vents and things like that. So, for 2003, this is kind of the style they were going after. Real sharp edges and a lot of different details, which were kind of nice. So, just kind of look over this. There's vents along the top here. So as you're going down the mountain or you're outside in the snow, you generate a lot of heat. It can be released. Most of the goggles have this, but this does a real nice job of styling around here. You'll actually notice that around the vents there's sealing here, which prevents the moisture from kind of leaking out. So it does have sort of a seal, but it does have some openings along the top where most of the heat will rise and then escape. On the back side is where all the foam is that kind of seals it to your face. And as I was getting this down from my cabinet, I noticed that the foaming here was kind of looks like something was eating against it. So I just sort of touched it and it started falling off. So just by existing, the foam is starting to fall off, and I guess that's just one of the properties of foam that unfortunately happens, which of course drives collectors nuts because they want to keep their collection pristine, and it just by sitting in the cabinet doesn't happen. I did a video a few weeks back about storage concerns, and here's another one. So, there's 3 layers of foam here. Basically, there's a real brittle foam, which seems to be falling apart if I touch it. There's a slightly thicker foam, which looks more like just sort of a spongy material. And then the final one is just sort of felt, which is, that doesn't look like it's really disappearing at all because it's just more cloth than anything else. There's also some foam here, which looks like it's a little more durable. This actually matches the middle layer, and it seems like it's a little more to it, so it's not going to fall apart as much. But it does fills in basically all these gaps, the same you hear on the front, and it basically just lets the heat escape so you don't end up fogging up your glasses. Right here, there's some additional vents for, I guess that's, just so you can go out every direction. And if you look inside here, you'll notice that there are gaps in there that let that heat come out. They hadn't gone too crazy with the straps at this point, so basically this is just the scatter icon, or the static icon rather, on the black. The hinges are kind of cool. They basically just swivel here. There's a nice bevel there. You can kind of see the icon there. So they like to put icons in every place that possible. So you do see a lot of elliptical accents on these things. Some nice spring to it. There is a lot of flex in the frame. So depending on your face size, it's going to basically hinge right on the center part here. Nice thumbprint icon in the middle, which is a nice touch. Most of the ones you see there had like indented icons or the Oakley script logo. This actually looks like a metal icon. So around the late 90s, early 2000s, they started switching over to metal icons. So of course, this followed suit. One of the nice things is that it came in one of a clear box, which is kind of reminiscent of the early 90s boxes, which I kind of think is a nice throwback. For the sunglasses around the time, they started transitioning towards the black boxes with the artwork on them, which I really like, but it's kind of cool to see some of the retro clear boxes being used for the goggles. They did bring back the clear box for some of the frog skins and some of the newer releases because they were going for the classic look. But basically, those are really just sort of special things, and they don't usually do that for sunglasses too often. The nice thing about the lens, the high blue lens, is that it does increase contrast, and even if you're in a dark situation, it looks like everything's brightening up. Now, that's not, of course, not true, because no matter what lens you have, it's always going to cut down some light, but the increased contrast does give you the perception that everything's brighter. So it's a really cool lens to look through. If you're skiing or snowboarding in later towards the evening, it's going to be a real nice lens for you. One thing I keep calling it high blue, and if you look on the Oakley website, you will not see a lens called high blue. You'll end up seeing a high yellow and then just a regular yellow. Around 2005, 2006, they decided to change the lens over from high yellow and high blue to just yellow and then high yellow. It does make a little more sense because if you look at like persimmon, high persimmon is just persimmon with a blue iridium coating, whereas regular persimmon is just a base coat lens with no iridium at all. The yellow, it makes sense that the yellow lens would be the non-iridium and then high lens would be yellow with a blue iridium coating. They originally called it high yellow, high blue, even though it's a yellow lens. I still call it high blue and high yellow for the non-iridium, but the correct term is actually high yellow for the blue iridium coating, regular yellow for the non-iridium coating. But I tend to just call everything by what it first came out as, regardless of what changed. That's why I still call things time tanks, not mini machines, and I'll stick to it. So that's pretty much it. Real basic review. I unfortunately don't get out a whole lot and do any sort of winter sports, so I can't really say the practical applications of this aside from just sort of a collector's piece. But I really like it. I like the styling. I like having a couple goggles in my collection. I have one more pair of goggles in the green camo. The only thing I regret about this is just sort of the lens is cool, but the frame is just black. But I did end up at a vault picking up a pair of green camo, which is kind of cool. Same lens though, but that's all right. So that's pretty much it. I just want to kind of give that a quick review, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you. Take care.